Hello students, welcome to this series on marketing and retail business. Today we are going to study retail management. In this we will cover unit 3 and we will study the factors affecting buying decisions of customers. Now let us study the objective of this lecture. The basic objective is to study the various factors affecting buying decisions of customers and this impact on the retail sales. Now let us study factors affecting buying decisions of consumers in retail industry. The various factors are personal, psychological and social. So, this is a broad classification of various factors impacting the buying decisions of consumers. They relate to the social, psychological and the personal aspects. That means, they are the various big parameters which impact the buying decisions of the customers. Now, let us study in detail. First is the personal factors. The personal factors are unique to each individual person. The demographic factors basically relate to the sex, race and age, education. So, this is basically personal is individual, it is customized and we basically relate to those aspects. The demographics relate to the kind of the age, education, gender and the habits which you cultivate on the basis of the changing phases of your life. So, these factors are also considered when customers take up their decisions to buy, because whatever products they buy, they impact the life and they impact the utility for which they are using the products. The utility of product is decided according to the phase of our growing up. Then is the psychological factors. Here we have to study first the motive. A motive is an internal energizing force that orients a person's activities towards satisfying a need or achieving a goal. Motives can build and develop a better marketing mix. So, when we study psychological aspect, it is the inner and the abstract aspect of human personality. The psychological aspect is basically governed by the motives. What are motives? They are the inner derives and the motivations which force customers to use specific products. These products basically give value to their life. So, psychological aspects in terms motives become the basis to design the marketing mix for the customer's product. Now, let us first study the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The Maslow's hierarchy of needs basically lives and relates to the physiological aspects, the safety, love, belongingness, esteem and self-actualization. Now, because when we are studying the psychological aspects of human personality, we need to study Maslow's theory, because he was a person who first analyzed the human motives and needs on the basis of his survival. He said a person basically gets attracted to make his life comfortable on physical basis, that is, he needs food, water and air to live in a good condition. Then the other aspects, which when these needs are completed, he runs after security and safety. So, this safety basically relates to your accommodation, to your house and to your campus or the place in which you want to be secured and share your relationship. And after you have achieved these needs, you basically relate to the love and belongingness, that is, now you want family, the friends and now you are able to fulfill their needs. Otherwise, you will not go for social parties if you yourself are hungry and you are not secured. You will only like friends and families when your needs, the physical needs are satisfied and now you can share your love, affection and your money with your friends. After completing these needs, people look into their self-esteem. Now, your self-respect becomes important, because unless and until your basic need is not completed, your respect is not important for yourself. When you have good relations, good family, good friends, then the other need which caters is the self-respect. And after self-respect, you try to crystallize your self-actualization needs. So, with each phase of your life and each phase of your need and your motivation, you require different product. The physical aspects will relate to the food industry, the security will relate to the accommodation and transportation. Friends, families, parties and entertainment have third level. Self-esteem is your recognition, your degrees and your education. Self-actualization is your research and your contribution and your social services given to the society. Now, let us study perception as a part of psychological needs. Perception is the process of selecting, organizing and interpreting information inputs to produce meaning. Information inputs are the sensations received through sight, taste, hearing, smell and touch. See, human perceptions are important. People basically select product on the basis of filtration through their perceptions. Perceptions relate to all the five senses a human body has. You filter through your eyes, you filter through your smell, your touch, hearing and the kind of the sight, that is taste and the ambience which is associated with the product. So, the filtration process, if it is related to all five senses, the product has to satisfy all the five senses of the human need. Now, let us study the selective exposure and distortion. Selective exposure basically helps you to select inputs to be exposed to our awareness. Selective distortion is changing, twisting current received information which is inconsistent with beliefs. Advertisers that use comparative advertisements basically focus on this aspect. Now, let us study one aspect of perception which is selective exposure and distortion. Exposure is you try to, even if information is given to you, even if advertisement is given to you, you basically select products which is relating to your awareness, that is how much education you have, how much your family is aware and if they are knowledgeable is they will help you to select the products related to organic or to medical or to other aspects of your life. If your awareness is limited, you will not buy the products. What is selected distortion is you have a distortion ability in terms to twist the received information. If information is there, you may according to your subjective inferences make it negative for your body and will reject the products. So, advertising basically has to relate to both the aspects of the people, that is the acceptance and the rejection, and on the basis of that they basically try to create a mix which will be acceptable by the customers. Then the psychological aspect is also focusing on ability and knowledge. What is ability and knowledge? It is the need to understand individual's capacity to learn. Learning changes in a person's behavior caused by information and experience. When making buying decisions, buyers must process information. Knowledge is the familiarity with the product and the expertise. Now, people also select product on the basis of the ability and the knowledge. Ability is your capacity to interact and to learn and to grab. If you are not educated, you will not be able to interact with the international variables or knowledge which is available in the market. But with course of time, when we learn, we try to update our behavior and we try to update and change our learning habits so as to customize the needs according to the changing times which mature our thinking. So, the decisions are based on many factors which evolve with the course of time to shape your learning. Knowledge is the familiarity when you use the product, and if you have a expertise to understand is you try to adapt the product for your daily life. What are attitudes? Knowledge and positive and negative feelings about an object or activity form the attitude. Individuals learn attitudes through experience and interaction with other people. Attitudes and attitude change are influenced by consumers' personality and lifestyle. The product buying decision is also impacted by attitudes. Attitudes can be positive and negative towards the product. They basically are built by the constant learning and the interactions which we have in the society. We can learn from media, we can learn from our role models, we can learn from family, and if the impact is not very strong of these factors, we learn through our personal experiences also. When you have experience with the product and if it is pleasure, you take it as a positive part of your life. When you use a product, if it is negative experience, you try to reject the product and try to switch your basic habits to the other products. Now is the personality. Personality is the internal traits and behaviors that make person unique. Uniqueness arrives from person's heredity and personal experience. Now, what is personality? It is a combination of internal traits and behaviors by which people project themselves to the outside world. The internal forces which basically govern your mind, project your habits and your behavior. Our habits and behaviors put an impression on people. Our personal experiences also influence our buying habits, because if we need to study and to become aware, we need to buy books. But if we want to indulge in bad habits like into drugs, we need to buy drugs. So, your personality in terms of what you think right also impacts your buying habits. Now, let us study the types of personality. Types of personality are workaholism, compulsiveness, self-confidence, friendliness, authoritarianism, dogmatism, ambitiousness, adaptability, introversion, extroversion, aggressiveness, competitiveness. So, when we try to study the various personalities which people possess, relates to extensive aspects of workaholism, to attraction, uh, to introversion, to extroversion. So, these types of personality, when they exist in market, they try to choose products and services according to the adaptability of personality with that service. Now, let us study lifestyle. Lifestyles are shift towards personal independence and individualism, and a preference for a healthy and a natural lifestyle. What is lifestyle? Lifestyle, basically people adapt to update themselves so that they can become personally independent in terms of taking decision and in terms of spending. Even a child would want to become independent, what he has to buy, what he has to eat and what he has to read. So, that personal independence of selecting and rejecting is a part of lifestyle. Lifestyle is a kind of a natural issue by which you gain a kind of a survival with confidence and independence in this world. Now, let us study the social factors. The basic social factors are the consumer's wants, learning, motives, etc. They basically are influenced by the opinion leaders, the person's family, the reference group, the social class and the culture. So, the consumer's perception, needs and buys, the consumer's needs and the motives to buy a particular product is influenced by the social class or a group to which he belongs. The opinion leaders, the family members also influence our personality. The culture in which we are brought up influences and shapes our habits of eating and growing up. So, anything which we buy in the market is influenced by the experience which you gain from the social parameter in which you are bringing up or growing up. The social parameter influences the upbringing and the experiences of the people to share a lifestyle which is generally valuable to his own individual culture. Now, let us study family. Family is the most basic group of a person he belongs to. The consumer behavior starts in the family unit. Family roles and preferences, they are the model for children's future family decision making. Family acts as an interpreter of social and cultural values for the individual. So, family is the most basic unit by which the consumer is impacted by. He is growing up and taking values from his father, mother, brothers and sisters. They shape his vision, they shape his habits, they shape the process of thinking, and with this valuable thinking he basically filters his perceptions of sight, touch, smell and tries to develop a taste which becomes patent and specific to a particular family and a unit. That is, these specific habits are a part of your growing up. You cannot change because you inherit these values, and on the basis of inheritance of these values, you try to take the future decisions also for your future family making. Now, let us study reference group. Individual identifies with the group to the extent that he takes on many of values and attitudes or behaviors of a group members. The families, friends, civic, professional organizations are important. Any group that has a positive or negative influence on a person's attitude and behavior is known as a reference group. Now, what is a reference group? Reference group is a group of people who influence our process of thinking. They may be a group of friends, the group of teachers with whom we are growing up, they can be the group of neighbors with whom we are living, or a group of people who are a part of our interaction in the society. So, reference group basically reflects the values of people to whom we belong. Suppose a person is working in any organization and that organization is related to any culture, that culture will have an influence on person's decision making and growing up. So, his lifestyle and his perceptions of selecting products will also be influenced by the reference group, the role models and the connections which he has in the society. Social class, an open group of individuals who have similar social rank. Social class influences many aspects of our life. So, what is a social class? We are all born with a class, that is on the basis of economic viability and on the basis of our culture, we inherit a kind of a class, and on the basis of your class structure you decide your lifestyle, and on the basis of your lifestyle is you decide your budgets to spend on your body and your mind to grow up in a better way. The social class basically decides the kind of the products which we will use in our life to build values for a comfortable living. Basis of class in society. Any country is not a classless society. The criteria for classifying classes are based on occupation, education, income, wealth, race, ethnic group and the possessions which we have. So, all countries in this world have a class. The society basically is formed by the combination of the various classes which are decided by education, by the occupation, the wealth and the symbols of status, that is the property and the real estate which we possess. And on the basis of this class you have a kind of a parameter to display your lifestyle, and your lifestyle helps you to filter the products which you use in the market. Now, let us study culture and subculture. Culture also determines what is acceptable with the product advertising and what is to be rejected. Culture refers to the set of values, ideas and attitudes that are accepted by a homogeneous group of people and transmitted to the next generation. So, what is culture? Culture is a living habit of people. Culture is the living style of any country. It basically is the way how we eat and how we grow up, that is the products which we use in terms of clothing, in terms of using our gadgets for making life comfortable, the education which we have and the kind of the food which we use, everything is related to the culture. So, culture is a set of attitudes and values which we inherit by our parents, and this culture is passed to the next generation. Cultures do not change because we imbibe this culture as a part of a growing up, because if you are born with a particular religion, is we do not change our religion, because the religion is associated with our identity and our name, which is cultivated deep rooted in our minds to be given to the next people or the next generations with whom we are living. Culture determines what people wear, eat, reside and travel. Cultural values in the US are good health, education, individualism and freedom. See, culture relates to what we are eating and what we are reading and what we are traveling. That is, traveling is also decided by where we have to go, what kind of entertainment we have to take up. So, in US the culture now basically relates to good health, good values and your personal confidence and independence. But because these countries are advanced in terms of education and wealth, they have imbibed these values. But when we talk about a country like India, where money is less, people imbibe the values to be depend on their family. Like here the woman will not work, so she will take up the values of her husband, because the economic independence is not there. Obviously, the culture will be followed by not by personal freedom, but the culture which she takes to live is to obey her husband and her in-laws and live a healthy life, because the individual freedom is not important for her. Culture, time scarcity is a kind of a growing problem for any country, big impact on international marketing. Culture can be divided into two aspects of subcultures, that is the geographical regions and the human characteristics. As time passes, the culture also changes with the impact of media and modifications. People change in their values and the habits. The international culture is also impacting the local cultures. Subcultures become a part of growing up, and they basically are impacted by the geographical dimensions and the human characteristics by which they learn and grow to experience their life in an innovative way. Now, let us study focused versus relationships, that is the transactions or the habits which we are filtering in the product display. Now, let us study the factors impacting personality and social identity. The basic factors impacting the personality and social identity relate to the values, the status, the country and the education. Now, when we are talking about these 4 parameters, it becomes important that the customer would shape his personality according to his birth, the learning aspect and the origin from where he has sourced his values. So, the country, the culture, the status of person, they put a very big impact on shaping his behavior and perceptions towards products. The marketers need to analyze the social strata of people before they frame the product or the advertisement, and according to the social aspect, the budget and the money becomes important. Within these parameters, the advertising is framed so as to reach the products to a class of customers who can afford those products. There are many international brands which have a different price variable issues in other countries, but the price basically is diluted in local destinations of some rural areas, so that even those customers can use the products. The class and the values both become important for filtering the perceptions of people before they use the product. Now, let us study the social capital. The social capital basically is the psychological aspect impacting the corporate decision making. It is the attractiveness of country, it is the attitudes and the relations of labor with the government, it is the environmental regulations and also the government's policies. So, when we talk about these aspects, the culture, the value, the social class, everything is impacted by the corporate decisions which are working in regulated environments of the various governments in other countries. The psychological, the social framework and the personal framework is also impacted by the attitude of the government to frame rules and regulations to determine a better position of women to work in market and to give freedom to each individual to crystallize his voice in the market. So, these issues all help people to filter the choices and impact the buying decisions. Now, let us study the summary of this lecture. In this lecture, we have studied the various factors affecting the buying decisions of consumers. In this, we have studied the personal, social and psychological factors. The personal factors relate to the customized issues which we try to impact the buying decisions. The social factors relate to the reference group, the family and the role models, and the psychological factors impact our own culture, values, lifestyles and our relations with the people in the society. So, these factors do impact the buying perceptions of the people. I hope the students must have understood the detailed array of the factors impacting the customers. Thank you, students.